people normally wouldn't have. So I really appreciate him coming here. Ali Ayash from Lumeos. Oh, a round of applause.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, June, and thank you, Starfish, for hosting this event. Our offices are over there, by the way. So we're super excited to be here and fortunate. So thanks, everyone, for being here. So my name is Ali, as June mentioned, and a little bit background about me. I come from the distributed engineering, or I'm a software engineer working mostly in distributed systems for the last 6 years at Amazon, Google, and other places. Last year I jumped into blockchain and was fascinated by Ethereum and built some smart contracts independently, and then recently moved forward and went for B-Token with some of my friends. I was a lead engineer over there, so it was an interesting time to explore building a scalable system on blockchain with being a fully decentralized application. And it was an interesting architectural experience from my perspective, because previously at Google and Amazon, I used people will you will have someone to ask what's the right answer, what's the wrong answer. But in this space, there's really no right or wrong answer. It's just experimenting and seeing what works, and then coming up with design patterns, and then setting those, and then continuing forward. Later on, I decided to move on, explore more opportunities in the blockchain space. So I've worked with multiple startups in the Bay Area who are trying to jump into blockchain as well. So I kind of advise and help building their architecture and systems. And then an interesting idea came up to my mind, and I decided to implement it. And that's Lumeos. And it comes from the fact that I wanted to see if it's possible to own your data the same way you own your cryptocurrency on the blockchain. And that is the basic idea behind it. We plan to be a data sharing protocol for the internet. And wherever you see a Lumeos plugin in any websites, you'll be able to share data confidently, knowing that you will be the only owner of it. And because of that, you can actually monetize access to it. So we've been working on Lumeos for a while, and we're going to be launching a proof of concept mobile application this month, focused around polls, where users can create polls and users can answer them and make money by doing so. So as I mentioned, I've built a few decentralized applications. I believe a few of you already did and or are in the process of doing so. I'm not going to explain more about why you need to build a decentralized application. I'm assuming that you've already taken the decision to do so, but that's a different talk in itself, whether your application is suitable for the blockchain or not. But just a quick summary. A blockchain, you decided to build on the blockchain because of transparency, immutability, and the fact that there is no middleman in the space. And then you decided to build your decentralized application because it's distributed, it's redundant, and it's scalable from the beginning. And then you try to do it, and then you realize that there are some hindrances, and you cannot build everything on the blockchain. You can't build a fully decentralized application, well, at least to some extent. And that's where you start looking and realizing that there are multiple blockchains and multiple pros and cons for each of them. So today I'll be mostly focusing on EOS and Ethereum. So the entry point for any blockchain is smart contracts. And think of smart contracts as the operating system of a blockchain, where you can write a contract or something, and it will dictate how your application functions in a decentralized way without the need to have a centralized server or a centralized middleman that takes access to you and whatnot. An interesting piece of trivia I like to always share is that the term smart contract was coined in 1994, and it meant exactly what it is today, which is incorporating contract flow practices into the design of electronic commerce protocols operating between strangers across the internet. And the best way to describe what the blockchain is, it's basically strangers talking across the internet. Think of BitTorrent and others. So how do you do things in a trustless environment? You create a law, or you create a contract that binds everyone to be able to trust each other, even though they don't trust one another. or might not have ever seen each other. Yeah, it facilitates the transactions between those without having to have a central entity that controls it. So today I'll be talking about 8 specific points of interest that I found that developers need to be aware of when developing an application or when deciding to build on the blockchain. And those are governance, scalability, complexity of the development, a timeline of the blockchain where it is currently in development or in production, the philosophy behind its design, its adaptability, market position, and current state. And then we can just start with governance, I guess. So there's a lot of consensus algorithms that blockchains use to sign transactions or ensure that the transactions are valid, and Bitcoin is like the early adopter of proof of work. It proved that you can actually launch a digital currency that can be worked with a trustless environment. Ethereum is a new improvement on top of Bitcoin, and it's still kind of a proof of work where networks or computers need to verify transactions that are happening. And it's like a hybrid model between proof of work, proof of stake, and sharding coming later on in the next few years. No one knows when, basically. But it's something that you should be aware of as a developer, because you need to know how the state is today versus the future when developing on top of that. There's multiple other blockchains, but like in comparison, EOS is